So that was a wealth of information, even more than I had hoped for. So I'm really happy that Ingrid made the time to come down and join us today. So my next guest is Aldo. Now Aldo is from Aldo's House of Formals, and we're going to talk a little bit about what he has, what he does, and again, his world plays into not more than just weddings, so you can think about that. But then we're going to also bring in someone to talk about the style that is modeling a tux from his place. Aldo, you ready to join me over there? Good to see you.
Hey.
Thanks for coming. So Aldo and I were again talking about last week, this giant party where everybody seemed to be at in the events world, and we were right next door, and we got to talking about the style and the things that you're doing. And I think did you recently join Elia? Was it?
Prospective member.
Oh, wait, so we got to get him to sign. All right, Debbie, you heard that. I got him. It's all set, done. All right. So yours is fascinating to me and most men. So
Yeah.
there's and a lot of what I think he's going to be able to say and talk about is, again, thinking of the world. I'm sure you got stuff that you're getting busy for New Year's Eve with people getting dressed up and doing things, anniversaries, big nights out, galas. So there's a lot that his stuff can play into, so just keep that in mind as well outside the wedding realm. But to me, and again, you had some great pictures up on social media and on your website, the styles, the trends, the fits are important, and of course you want to match your bride and the bridal party. A lot of it with me, and you can tell me how much this comes into play in your world, is it came down to comfort with me personally.
Okay.
So
All
it
right.
was because you realize, you hear the bride talk about how she's going to be in this gown the whole 8 hours or 10 hours or whatever.
Sometimes longer.
Sometimes
actually.
longer,
Yeah.
with pictures and all that.
Yeah.
And it got me thinking, and I'm like, I'm going to be in the same situation, and I want to be comfortable as well. So I got to imagine that that's a factor that comes out with the new styles that are there. Is that accurate? Or?
Well, for the most part, I mean, something that I always tell particularly our clients, is that I can't promise you'll be comfortable, but I can promise you'll look good. And for the most part, I always tell people, if ladies can deal with a heel, a guy can deal with a good fitting suit.
Nice. Oh, go to this way a little bit, sorry. I want to make sure you stay. So we got to make sure we have enough room when we bring in Michael, who's going to be coming in next to us. So talk to us about the different styles and what Aldo's carries. So give us an overview of your place.
For the most part, I mean, we originally started off as Anthony's House of Formals. That was set up in 1942 in East Providence.
Wow.
My family acquired the business about 14 years ago, and in the last 6 years, we've revamped it under Aldo's House of Formals. We've kept the Anthony's House of Formals brand in East Providence, but we've kept our Cranston and our Newport location as Aldo's House of Formals.
Okay. So how many locations in total? There's
Three.
Three. Okay. So I just want to make sure. So go over the locations again.
We've got East Providence, Cranston, and Newport.
Okay. So you kind of cover the state.
Oh God,
Yeah,
yeah. For our small state, nobody likes to travel over bridges.
No, I know, which is
God
crazy.
forbid 20 minutes is too far.
But those are perfect locations when you come to think about it. So in that evolution of that history, you've seen a lot of changes.
Absolutely. We've seen changes from literally pleated pants to flat front pants to now what we call tapered pants, and it's amazing. I've even seen like textured jackets now. We've even got as far as like paisley printed coats.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of the stuff that we've seen in the last 2 years has been things that we've seen on what I call Instagram, or what we call our Instagram models.
Right.
And it's kind of evolved into going into like mainstream now. So I get a lot of grooms even asking me for like, paisley jackets or printed coats. A lot of the stuff that's out there, for the most part, in my opinion though, is not exactly something you'd want to wear for a wedding. It's something that you would want to wear maybe for like an event or social. But for a wedding, I mean, we're not there to outdo the bride.
Yeah, and so talking about that, not to outdoing the bride that way, how do you, when someone's coming in, what's the best advice you're going to give a groom or his grooms when they're coming in, how to match up the bride? Do you recommend they bring a picture of the guy? But they're not usually seeing that.
The first step we recommend is we actually ask that the groom come in with his fiance.
There we go.
Actually, nothing is picked out without her there being present. We need both of them present to pick out everything, to pick out all the details. Because to be honest with you, we get stuff wrong. We're guys.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue that point.
We ask them that they bring a swatch, pictures, an Instagram, photos of just about anything. And then I can narrow it down to specifics of what they're looking for.
So you mentioned earlier about the changes like completes and the different cuts and the things that are out there. Does that fall into the effect as well? So that if the fiance's there and she's talking to you and everything, are you looking at things that an environment, on the weather? Is there a difference in all of that?
A lot of times I'll ask them daytime, nighttime wedding.
Okay.
That's going to dictate whether or not they wear a light colored jacket or a dark colored jacket. Next thing I ask them if it's going to be indoors, outdoors. I actually ask, because our jackets, actually our suits in general, and tuxes come in different fabric. We've got super wools, we've got linens, we've got different types of fabrics, and each type of fabric pretty much correlates with the weather. So
Right.
I mean, if you're going to be outside, you know, a broad wedding by the beach in Mexico, for example, a heavy wool tux is not going to be the one you're going to want to wear now.
So if you like that style, you're going to be changing your mind pretty quickly. No, and it's funny because we think about it as we go shopping, or most guys I think about it when we take care of ourselves. But when it comes to this, your mind is so clogged and clouded.
No,
It doesn't come to mind.
Yeah.
So well, I know we're going to bring in Michael in just a minute, who's helping us out in modeling for us today. But from that position of styles and trends going through the year, colors.
Colors.
Okay.
Deep, rich colors, as I'm noticing. Honestly, we're seeing a lot of deep blues, a lot of burgundies, particularly in the wine family. We're noticing a lot of that, and I think a lot of it correlates to the fact that we're getting so many fall weddings. I would say this year we've gotten about 30% more weddings than last year for fall.
Really?
I would say our summer for the most part was busy, but fall and winter are up, and a lot of it I think also has to do with the fact of price. Most venues, for the most part, charge a little less during their off season, but a lot of them are catching wind on this, and they're extending what they call their in-season pricing now.
Right.
So
from that position, so say someone's getting engaged over the holiday, they decide they want a short-term wedding, so they're going to get married in the next 6 months.
Okay.
What's the window of time that you recommend that they have to come to you? Is it as soon as they get engaged, or is it as soon as they pick the date? What's your?
Well, I'll give you an example. We've got couples that have booked with us 2 years in advance, which is insane. We've got couples that book with us a year in advance. Totally fine. What we require at least is about 4 to 5 months.
Okay.
Generally, that gives you enough time to pick out everything, gives your groomsmen enough time to get fitted, get measured, because again, guys procrastinate. Well, I would say 8 out of 10 of our weddings, there's always that one guy coming 2 weeks before the wedding, even though they booked us a year in advance to get measurements in. Yeah.
So I had an interesting question that came up to me on social media right before I came on the air, and talking about guys procrastinating is what we just maybe logged into my mind there, is when it's a destination, so to speak. So say, the bride and groom are from here, they're having their wedding in Newport, but half their bridal party's coming from the West Coast.
Okay.
How do you work it? And this is a tip, is that the guy that asked me, he's like, well, how do you set it up so that I can get the measurements from my guys that are, without having to fly them in, before the wedding and stuff. So I thought it was a good question.
No, this is actually where my company shines, and I would actually say this, that we're the only tuxedo company that's small mom and pop that actually works with 1,400 independents nationwide. We have teamed up with a company an organization called the International Formwear Association. Nice. I am the only one that represents this side of the coast, and or at least in Rhode Island. And what we've done essentially is we have a website where you can type in your zip code, find the nearest partner of ours, get measurements there, and then they can actually email the measurements directly to one of our locations, or they can call us with the measurements. Generally, we require that if you decide to email them to us, I would require you at least to give us a follow-up phone call, because emails do get lost. They could be put in the spam box by accident, or you could have typed it on our email by one letter off. It happens.
Now, is there a recommended time? Does the time frame change because of that, because of the distance?
Not really. I mean, so long as we get the measurements in 2 months before the wedding, we should be good. But I've honestly gotten. We don't tell the groomsmen this, actually. No. Now that I think about it,
don't bring it up.
we can get it done. Don't worry. I mean, if trust me, if they give us only 8 days to get it done, we've gotten it done. I've gotten actually things done in less than 24 hours sometimes.
That's fine. So I want to kind of take the segue there, because he's already given some phenomenal tips and answered a question that was a pretty good question, I thought.
Yeah, very good question.
I would like to bring Michael in, who is a giant help to us, and we'll slide over a little bit here so he can fit in with us. So I'm going to let Michael, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So Michael is a great volunteer. He's also an ILEA member, a student, and he volunteered to help model today, because I felt last week it was important, or last time we showed a gown, got to show a tux, and Aldo's got some beautiful stuff. So tell us a little bit about what he's wearing and how this plays into the conversation we've been having so far.
Well, for the most part, a lot of the tuxes out there are mostly more textured now. And we decided to go with pretty much a pin dot jacket here. Shawl lapels are really in, particularly because they extend the silhouette of a man, which is really nice. Bow ties are really in, particularly floral pocket squares. Everyone's loving the floral right now. We're looking for more soft shoulders, more tapered here, more tapered arms, and more tapered on the waist. These are things that many of our clients have been asking for, and we have been able to deliver so far.
No, and I mean, I gotta go back to the comfort thing, but it looks to me like it's more comfortable too from the styles. Shoulders you brought up been a big thing, because some guys felt like the shoulders were always.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times the shoulder padding inside would be, you would look like a football player or a Power Ranger. If you remember that at all.
Yeah.
Now what we've done essentially is we've given soft shoulders to all of our jackets. That way it's a little bit more trim, it looks a little bit better, and it's actually a lot more flattering.
No, I have to agree. And again, this goes back to the style. You were talking about the different textures of the
Exactly. I mean, for the most part, you've got this pin dot. I mean, for me, this screams wedding. I mean, if you're looking to add a little, zest to the whole look, we can actually supply this jacket for the groom, and for the groomsmen, we can actually give them the same jacket, but in just plain black. And the groom could be the one that's standing out. If he wants to stand out a little bit, I would say that much. But I mean, let's face it, we can't outshine the bride, but I can make my best to make sure that you at least are comfortable next to her.
So jackets like this and styles like this,
Yep.
is there a way, I mean, I know like in this case, the tie's fitting perfectly with what it is, but
Yep.
is there a way to still incorporate the colors?
Absolutely.
The-
Yeah, I mean, well, it depends. I mean, on this particular case, what looks best, in my opinion, would be black, grays, platinums. We have tried adding colors on this, but it looks good, not best.
Okay.
So generally with colors, I tend to stick with something a little bit more plain black, or if we get some texture, we can actually add some color to the jacket itself. There we can add a little bit of more color, but on something like this, because of the black and white on there, I'm pinned.
Now, shoes. Another thought that came up for me is that I get that question a lot about, I mean, when I got married, all my guys are like, please tell me they're going to have shoes there. You guys carry shoes?
Yes, we carry, when it comes to our rentals, we carry about 8 different selections of, or 8 different styles of shoes that you can choose from.
Okay.
You're not limited. They're all part of our packages.
So there's some style there.
Oh God, yeah, there's some style there. And we've also got another 13 set of shoes that you can buy if you prefer. Maybe you want to keep something for your wedding. Everything that we have in our store, we sell and rent.
Okay.
So it's if you want to keep that jacket because you want a memory, we've got it for you.
So if you've liked this after you wore it at the wedding, you can make a purchase.
Yeah,
and choose
make a
to
purchase, or you can buy it up and we'll tailor it for you. It's only
Awesome.
yours.
So you mentioned the ties are back in. Is it this particular ties back in, or is it the bolo ones they used to do? I don't know what the heck you even call those. I'm bad at it. Sorry.
I used to call them the little cowboy ones.
Cowboy. Okay. All right. I'm like,
Those, no.
okay. All right. I saw a picture the other day of that, and I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, but I had to say I thought it was Texas. I really had to say that. All right.
Possibly down there.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it could be, yeah.
How about vests?
Vests are popular, but I'm noticing that there's a slight phase. It's almost gotten to the point where it's 50-50. 50% of our customers coming in request no vest because they like the fact that there's more shirt showing. If you add a vest, there's less shirt at that point. And for some reason, on some jackets, particularly on a shawl, it looks better without a vest, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, this style exactly looks absolutely.
Plus, for the guys out there, I mean, it's less things to wear.
It's always a good thing. So, Michael, thank you for coming in. Really appreciate you
Thank you.
volunteering me the time.
Thank you.
This
Thank
guy
you.
is a dedicated guy, and he does a lot of great work. So, I want to make sure, just because that was very helpful. But is there anything that I didn't ask that you think that sticks out from a tip that people should consider? And in both the bride, the fiancés on both sides, the male and the female. I mean, I want to make sure I touch upon everything here. So,
For the most part, I mean, if you happen to show up without your fiance, the best thing you could do is bring a swatch of the bridesmaids' colors. At least we can pick out some tie options, because a lot of times that jacket that you like won't go with that color, and it's easier for me to tell you, you know what, we're better off based on the colors that I see here, based on the swatches, we're better off going this route. That way you don't have false hopes about this particular style, and when we do bring in the fiance, we have something more solid to show her as opposed to her telling you, are you kidding me? You're not wearing that. So,
which I'm sure has happened many times.
A lot of times, particularly when the guy shows up solo, it happens more times than you think.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for making the time today.
Pleasure.
I really appreciate
Thank you.
it, and thank you for getting Michael dressed up because that was very helpful. Thank you again.
Thank you.